What can I say? I've been insulted already. The former young birder. Former young birder. You know, when does one stop being a young birder? 54-year-old young birder. Young at heart, that's for sure. What can I say? Thank you very, very much indeed for giving up 45 minutes of your time on this nice, warm Birdfair day. Birdfair, again, is proving to be a triumph. It was extremely busy yesterday, lots of people here, hugely successful, plenty of things to see and do, and of course it always comes with its purpose, which is why we are also keen to support it, and that is that it's raising awareness and also funds to this year combat the illegal, largely illegal, trade and killing of birds in the Mediterranean region. If you haven't already done so, I urge you to go to the Bird Life stand over in this direction and pick up one of their reports. Staggering numbers of these birds are being killed across Europe, so whilst we do everything we can in this country to protect them and do a generally good job, when they leave our shores they're in big trouble. So it's great that we've come up with this venture this year to draw attention to the issue and raise funds, significant funding. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you also to the BTO who have sponsored the next 45 minutes. I'm surprised and very flattered to be the president of the British Trust for Ornithology. I'm sure you all know what it is, but let me tell you that it's globally renowned for gathering and processing data. It's all very well saying there are a few less of these about subjectively, as we're all prone to do with our anecdotal memories of days past, but it needs to be quantified in order to drive effective conservation. And we're very fortunate that in the UK we have a collection of bodies, the BTO is one of them, that monitors extremely carefully and intrinsically accurately our bird populations. It has no global equal. But I have to tell you at this point that one of the most exciting projects they've been pioneering in recent years is with the Eurasian cuckoo. I was very lucky to have one of the cuckoos named after myself, thus Chris the cuckoo. But it appears that Chris the cuckoo has breathed his last somewhere in northern Chad. Now, I had aspirations to die in many different ways, but expiring in a dowdy oasis in northern Chad wasn't on my list. I was going to call for a minute's silence, but when I spoke to the BTO this morning, they said we're not entirely sure that he's dead yet. So let's wait until next year for that minute's silence, and we'll cross our fingers and hope he's alive. So big thanks to the BTO. But it's not about me today. I'm very keen this year to promote the fact that there are other young birders. He's gone now. There are other young birders who are active, and there are some down the front here, I'm sure, and I'm really pleased. You're the most important part of this audience. In fact, let's hear it for this young collection of birders down here. I can see a few others scattered amongst here. We hear about dramatic declines of lapwing, 56% in the last 25 years. We hear that our woodcocks are down 79%. We hear our snipe are down 89%, but there's been an extinction in the UK countryside. And here is that extinction. This is the formerly young birder, and he was undeniably young. I got into wildlife when I was really young, and the reason that my interest endured was that I was able to explore the countryside around my home. My parents were responsible parents, I think, and one thing that they understood was that my early fascination meant that I needed to get out into this environment to satisfy the needs. Our garden was rather more modest. In fact, it was about the size of this stage. And although it had a few ladybirds and the occasional tadpole and a few dead things, it didn't offer the riches that this sort of place did. But very sadly, many young people are not allowed into this environment anymore because these woodlands are closed for hygiene purposes. That's a joke sign, I put it up there. I put it up there, as I was with the rest of the signs that I've shown you, to draw attention to the fact that we have, not us perhaps, but many people have turned the countryside into a dangerous place to be, where there are all sorts of ills. Woodland ahead, no children. Woodland is now like it was in the Middle Ages, where we perceived it to be full of wolves and bandits that would gobble up young children wearing red cloaks and grandmothers. Pity we haven't got so many wolves and bandits, really, but we don't have those, but it's not, of course it's not a dangerous place. It's a repository of great riches, where young minds can be stimulated by the simplest of things that will seed a lifelong interest. And I'm preaching to the converted, I know, because you are all here. Now this sign is slightly more confrontational. It says child molestation area, because it's an area of woodland. I'm not making light of the fact that people who are child molesters are evil and we want to purge them from our society. I'm not denying any sympathy for any victims of this, but what I am saying is that if we rob people of the ability to explore this environment and we don't provide them with the safe means of doing so, then we will end up with no young birders. We will end up with no one who will set their alarm clock this morning to get up and come here and come and sit down at the front, all those older young birders who are sat further at the back. The countryside is not filled full of child molesters. It's full of interesting things which can ignite that spark and seed that lifelong interest. Tadpoles, beware, this one says. I just finished a children's book, and they asked me if I wanted to put a dedication in it. And I wanted to put in the dedication, this book is for all of those who know the taste of tadpoles. On Friday I was told that I couldn't have that dedication because the publishers were concerned that it might lead to young people eating tadpoles. Show of hands, quickly, who's eaten a tadpole? Come on. Yeah? Who's still alive after eating a tadpole? It's that connection that's so important. You've got to allow young people to get in contact with wildlife. The feel of a frog, the tickle of a newt on the palm of a hand is something that's intrinsically important. These animals are not toxic, even when you consume them. This is perhaps the worst of all, danger butterflies. My goodness me, what are we protecting our young people from? What are we robbing them from? Of? It's a terrible... Clearly good English language skills. I'm very pleased to say that for all of this and all of this nonsense, there are a number of young people that have slipped through the net, and I'm very pleased that this morning I'm going to introduce you to 3 of them. They all have a specialism at their young age, which is exciting. They're all dynamic and active, they're all self-motivated, and they're all full of energy. And when I wander the woods with Mr. Itchy and Mr. Scratchy, my poodles, and I've now wandered the woods with those 2 dogs near where I rent my house in the New Forest, and I've been there for 7 years. I've never seen a single young person in those woods. Not shooting birds with an air rifle, nicking birds' eggs, building dens, tracking animals, never. And it really worries me. So when I meet Josie, Connor, and Georgia, who are about to speak to you, I feel good. I feel good as much as I feel good when I see these young people down here. Because I am 54 years old, and I'm feeling a little bit tired. And I'm going to get tireder and tireder, and I'm going to need replacing. We're all going to need replacing. And we need good quality replacements. And what I'm going to show you this morning, or they're going to show you, is that there are good quality replacements waiting in the wings. So first of all, I'd like you to put your hands together to welcome Josie Hewitt. Josie is, I describe her as a young scientist, and she's going to tell you about what she does. I like that in a young person. I was very fortunate to meet a teacher who drove me to science at a very young age. He took me out of natural history and pushed me into making graphs and pie diagrams. I've never grown out of it. I like statistical representation, and so does Josie. Let's hear it for Josie Hewitt.
So today good afternoon everyone. Let me introduce myself. So I'm Josie Hewitt, I'm 17 years old, and I'm currently studying A-levels in biology, geography and environmental studies at Sixth Form College. Today I'd like to give you a brief overview of the science behind the British Trust for Ornithology's bird ringing and nest recording schemes. I started training to ring in autumn 2011, and after being completely captivated by the BTO's ringing demonstration here at Birdfair 4 years ago, I can't believe it was that long ago. In October last year I received my C permit, and that allows me to ring by myself without any supervision, and so far I've ringed over 700 birds on my licence, and I'm always looking to broaden my ringing experience. I'm very passionate about birds, particularly the scientific side of things, trying to understand their habits, migrations and behaviours, as well as what factors affect them and how we can protect them for the future. I'm also very keen to try and inspire the next generation to take an interest in conservation and the natural world, and I try to do this through writing and maintaining a blog, and by helping run ringing demonstrations for youth groups such as our local RSPB Wildlife Explorer group, which they're always so interested, and the smiles on their faces are brilliant. Right. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to give you a bit of a background to bird ringing and the ringing scheme. So bird ringing is where a lightweight, uniquely numbered metal ring is carefully placed around the leg of a bird, and this provides us with a reliable and harmless method of identifying birds as individuals. The British and Irish ringing scheme has been going on for over 100 years. When it first started, the main aim of the scheme was to find out where birds were going when they left our shores. And although we are still discovering new facts about migration routes and wintering areas, the ringing scheme has evolved to focus on monitoring bird populations, and this is where the BTO's integrated population monitoring comes in. So as you can see from this flowchart, the integrated population monitoring is quite a complicated thing, as it brings together the data from a number of different long-running schemes in order to be able to look at the bigger picture and monitor the numbers, breeding performance and survival rates of a wide range of bird species. It has specific aims, it's got 4 specific aims, and they are establishing thresholds that will be used to notify conservation bodies of requirements for further research or conservation action. The second aim is identifying the stage of the life cycle at which changes are taking place. The third aim is to provide data that will assist in identifying the causes of this change. The fourth aim, to distinguish changes in populations that are as a consequence of human activities from those that are natural population fluctuations. However, as I don't have long to talk to you today, I'm just going to briefly talk about 4 aspects within the programme that I've been involved with to some extent, and that is ringing, CES, RAS and NRS. Nest recording and ringing are all about understanding the changes in bird numbers that are measured through surveys such as the breeding bird surveys. NRS, which is a nest record scheme, tells us how many birds are fledged each year, and ringing tells us how well they and their parents survive. This is very important because birth and death are the 2 processes which control the size of a population. NRS is pretty straightforward. By following the progress of the nest, you can work out how many chicks are reared and ultimately how successful they are. A really easy way to get involved with and contribute to NRS is to monitor and record the progress of any nests in any birds nesting in nest boxes in your garden. For example, in my garden this year, blue tits, as you can see up on the screen, this is their progress. Blue tits used one of the nest boxes, and I monitored it right from when they first put the first bit of nesting material in the box up until the day the chicks fledged. So, however, ringing is a little bit more complicated. So originally, survival rates were based on dead birds found by members of the public, which works well for bigger species that are more obvious, like barn owls or blackbirds or something, but it doesn't work so well for small birds such as wrens or robins. I've been lucky enough to be involved with a local woodlark colour ringing project, which brings together nest recording and ringing. We fit colour rings to the chicks in the nest, and this enables the birds to be resighted without the need for recapture. And the nests are monitored from the day they are found until the day the chicks fledge. These days, fewer people are willing to pick up dead birds because of health and safety concerns, so the BTO increasingly base survival rates on live birds that are recaptured by ringers. But in order to do this, you have to be able to take account of the amount of time and effort that is put into recapturing the birds. So with CES, which is constant effort size, this is done by keeping the amount of effort constant each year, and with RAS, which is retrapping adults for survival, you measure and record how much effort you put in.